Hello, I'm Piero, and I want you to understand, I'm going to mark the videos like this one. Now, the topic I want to talk about today is hypocrisy. And to me, hypocrisy is a fundamental philosophical issue that connects political philosophy all the way down to basic epistemological questions. Well, with relativism, one of the complaints against relativism is that you can never decide who's correct and who's wrong. So the complaint is that anything goes in relativism. There's no way to judge. But that's not actually true. And hypocrisy is a standard, or really, the prohibition against hypocrisy is a relativistic standard. Now, why? It's because hypocrisy says that you should do what you say others should do. So it's a form of the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Because it refers to your own value system, it's either what you think or what you say, right? Because usually hypocrisy has to do with what you profess, a professed belief. Since it refers to what you say, it's referring back to you. And it says to judge a person by their own value system. Okay. It says to judge a person by their own value system. And that is a good relativistic way of judging. This leads to various consequences. Good consequences. Okay. If you're going to judge a politician by their own standards, then one thing that has to happen is you have to know their standards. Now, to know somebody's standards is to, of course, listen to what they're saying, so they have to actually say something. So it puts a burden on the politician to actually say what they believe. But in addition to that, for any person that is professing a particular philosophy, we also have a second philosophy that we can deduce about them. And this is the philosophy that we abstract from their behavior. So the basic formula for figuring out a philosophy from someone's behavior is you calculate what philosophy they would have to believe in order to believe that what their behaviors add up to is intentional and fine with them. And you can also judge people based on that. Are their behaviors consistent? Okay. Now, the one problem with this kind of a value system is it leaves itself open to certain value systems that we want to judge negatively, even if the people are not hypocrites. So, for example, a thief. If somebody steals from you and says that it is okay to steal from you, and says that, hey, I guard my stuff, you just have to guard your stuff too, and if you get my stuff, fair play, and so forth. Well, that's an interesting problem, isn't it? We actually have that situation in the United States. We have a saying, finders keepers, losers weepers. And I've run into many people from other cultures that were surprised about that. To them, that is advocating stealing. That when you find something of any value, that you should leave it there, or otherwise try to let the owner come back in contact with that thing. But really, we judge people a little bit in something like this on whether they live by those rules. Are they all bent out of shape when they lose something and somebody else has picked it up by the time they go back to get it? And we can judge them based on their hypocrisy. On the other hand, it is true that my value system allows for kind of an honor among thieves, where if somebody says they really believe in that philosophy and they're willing to live by it, not hypocritically, but you see, accepting the consequences then yes, I grant a certain amount of honor of ethical behavior. Because what I think is this: none of our systems are perfect. And when you choose an imperfect system, which they all are, what's going to happen is, and you live by it honestly, not as a hypocrite, you are going to get feedback from the world. The world is going to continue to generate these experiences, and they will be affected by your philosophy, because that will be driving your behavior, which evokes a lot of the responses, and also your behavior has to deal with the basic conditions of the world, right? Well, that feedback that you want, those are the ramifications of your philosophy. Now, some philosophies can be incoherent, so that they contradict themselves. And sometimes it is just the person that is being a hypocrite and not living according to their standards. And in any given case, you might judge your value system just as likely as you judge your own behavior. You might realize that your value system is generating your problem. So it's that your value system, being pro robbery, that's leading to you getting robbed alive. Because maybe you've seen that your philosophy has spread throughout your whole apartment building, and as a result, you get robbed every day. And you start to judge your value system. And so we're changing the value systems as we go. And when you change a value system, you can add a detail, or you can create a whole new system. And in any given situation, you really can go either of those routes. And it's a personal choice as well as a matter of your place in history, which you do. But in either case, you're modifying your philosophy. And how is this happening? This is happening because you are, in fact, finding yourself to be hypocritical sometimes. If you were trying to improve yourself and improve your system, which I think we all are, because even when we as individuals give up or grow old and decide that we're going to relax about that kind of thing, there's new generations of humans, and we're always trying to improve all of our ideas, all of our understandings. So that means we're going to have standards up here and behavior, a little bit lower than that. And that gap is going to generate hypocrisy. And the only way that we can address that is, again, with honesty and realizing we're not living up to our standards. Then we have one of these events where we either improve our behavior, or if we really decide that that's impossible, we change our standards. Now, for example, premarital sex. For a long time, that was considered wrong. A lot of people still consider it wrong. But even people that consider it wrong have a strong tendency to, engage in premarital sex. And statistically, it's basically inevitable in a culture. We finally decided to change our value system, and many of us don't think that there's anything morally wrong with premarital sex. The things that can go wrong with premarital sex are still wrong. To have a child that you can't care for, or that doesn't have two loving parents, or whatever. All of these problems can still exist. But, we've narrowed in on those, and as far as the general classification, we changed our value system after we finally gave up changing our behavior. Or, interestingly enough, as a side note, maybe after we improved our behavior to a certain threshold, and then we decided, well, that isn't really the rule. The rule is to have this other kind of more refined care. And so through this process of not living up to our standards and committing the sin of hypocrisy, but honestly watching ourselves do it and not accepting that, but wanting to do something about it, this is progress. It is progress in science, in emotional matters, in politics, in everything. Progress comes down to this: having a system that generates your reactions. You find differences between the behavior and what the system predicts or prescribes, and you either improve and change the behavior, or you improve and change the system, so that over time you're really improving your behavior and your systems of judging behaviors. So that's my video on hypocrisy.